Let's get the sport off-pitch action, actually, unfortunately, Lee, to start with.
Yes, sadly indeed, David. A 24-year-old Belgian footballer has died after suffering a heart attack playing for his club in a training match. Gregory Mertens collapsed on the field 20 minutes into the game between his club Lokeren and Genk on Monday. He was given emergency treatment on the pitch before being rushed to hospital, where he was placed in an induced coma, but his condition worsened and his family agreed with doctors to switch off the life support system. The club has said Mertens had been screened several times during his career and that nothing had pointed towards a fundamental heart problem. While many expressed their sadness on social media, Lokeren tweeted that they wish his friends and family strength. It's almost a year since the FIFA World Cup in Brazil, and while the South American country is known as a heartland of world football, the game there is facing increasing difficulties and financial disarray. The 20 clubs in the top-tier league have until the end of Thursday to publish their financial results. It's expected to highlight that nearly every team would be effectively bankrupt if they operated as businesses. And with Brazil's economy in recession and sponsors withdrawing funding, the issue is expected to get worse. 8 of the league's top 12 teams are reported to be behind on paying players' salaries. Many clubs are resorting to bank loans to stay afloat, and the clubs have a collective debt of around $1.3 billion in unpaid taxes. And so President Dilma Rousseff sent legislation to Congress last month that would give the clubs up to 20 years to pay back their taxes. And while Brazilian clubs have long profited from selling players to other countries, more talented youngsters are going to teams in the Middle East or Asia to raise revenue. Well, we're joined by Brazilian football writer Mauricio Savarese from Sao Paulo. Welcome, Mauricio. This is rather depressing for football fans. Why is Brazilian football in such a mess?
Well, unlike Brazilian football executives, Brazilian clubs have been in debt since the 80s, actually. And the difference now is that they had a few good years, spent too much, and now the bill is coming. But clubs are dealing with that differently. Some of them are improving their governance. They are opening to non-predatory business practices, and others are becoming shopping windows for agents, which is the easiest thing to do and doesn't solve the bigger issues that they have. Other clubs are going through momentary issues because they're building stadia, training grounds, and the like. I would say that the mess now is not bigger than the one that we had in the early 2000s when all the clubs were really doing terrible, exporting all players to Europe and Japan. But there is the frustration because we had a few good years with good players coming to Brazil, and that doesn't happen anymore.
Okay, I covered the World Cup in Brazil and saw just how devastated people there were with the failure on the pitch. If they'd have managed to win the tournament, might things be any different?
Well, not really. I know this comes as a shock to most foreigners, but clubs are more important to Brazilians than Brazil or the World Cup defeat. There will be no change in the current mass in Brazilian football if there's no economic change. And I mean that not only in the Brazilian economy, but also in the football economy. Improving governance here won't change the fact that each year about 1,000 footballers leave Brazil, not only for Europe, but for the Middle East, China, everywhere else. I would say that the Bosman ruling might be great for the Champions League, but it's not very good for South American football. Our football product got much worse over the years because of these players leaving. Not only the top-notch players leave, but the medium players, the bad players, all of them are leaving. And the clubs are getting addicted to the kind of mindset of exporting players and not putting on a good show for Brazilians. So improving governance is important, but it is also important that FIFA acts on the transfers, and it would be good for Brazilian football, and not only for the players to be here for longer, but for the fans who want to watch a better spectacle.
And in a word, can all those who love the game in Brazil be optimistic about its future at all?
Without any economic change, no.
Thank you very much for that, Mauricio. Well, let's move on to cricket, and Zimbabwe's cricket board has confirmed they will tour Pakistan next month, the first test nation to visit the country in 6 years. They'll play 2 T20 matches and 3 one-day internationals between the 22nd and 31st of May. No team has visited Pakistan since the attack in Lahore in 2009. 6 Sri Lankan cricketers were injured when the team's bus was targeted by gunmen. Pakistan are currently playing Bangladesh in Khulna and are dominating the first test. A feast of runs for Pakistan on day 3, reaching 537 for 5, including a career best 224 for Mohammad Hafiz. Pakistan 205 runs ahead in their first innings. Just over 2 days away from a huge boxing match in Las Vegas that is generating hundreds of millions of dollars. Pacquiao v Mayweather to unify the world welterweight titles. There's still many ticketless fans in Vegas. The 1,000 that were available to fans sold out in 60 seconds. The remaining 15,500 were allocated to sponsors and promoters. The Memphis Grizzlies are through to the second round of the NBA playoffs after beating the Portland Trail Blazers. Marc Gasol scored 26 points, which was crucial as his side won the game 99-93. The Grizzlies reached the Western Conference semi-finals for the third time in 5 years, but now they take on the top-seeded Golden State on Sunday. The NFL draft is about to take place. It's a big deal in the sport where teams select the best young football players from US colleges over 2 days. In order to be selected for the draft, many take part in a special week-long event in February where they undertake a series of tests in front of NFL scouts. Although mainly physical, players also undergo a specific IQ test. Rahul Pathak explains.
Now, the test itself is called the Wonderlic test, and it's named after the psychologist Eldon Wonderlic. Now, although it was developed way back in 1937, the NFL have been using it since 1970. Now, it's used to measure a person's ability to think, learn, solve problems and follow instructions, all vital skills for any prospective NFL star. Now, the test itself is a 50-question, 12-minute exam, and the questions vary in difficulty. I'm going to show you one of the easier ones. Look at the row of numbers there. Now, you have to decide which comes next. 8, 4, 2, 1, half, quarter. The answer? Well, an eighth, of course. Well, scores do vary depending on what position you play in. Quarterbacks like New York Giants star Eli Manning tend to do better. He scored 39 out of 50. Other positions like wide receivers, those are the guys who catch Manning's passes, well, they average much lower. Well, Manning has so far won 2 Super Bowls for the New York Giants, but the test doesn't always get it right. Back in 1983, Dan Marino scored just 15 on the test. That's 9 points below the quarterback average. But a year later, he was named the NFL's most valuable player for the Miami Dolphins, and he's regarded as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Thanks to Rahul. Now imagine climbing up one of the world's steepest mountains at speed and breaking a record for it. That's what Swiss climber Daniel Arnold has done, becoming the fastest man to climb the north face of the Matterhorn on the border of the Swiss and Italian Alps. He reached a 3,400-metre summit in a time of just 1 hour 46 minutes.
And I have sat there for breakfast and thought, how do you do it in a lifetime? Lee, thank you. Goodbye.
North Dakota is in the midst of a black gold rush. The fracking industry is providing some of the most lucrative jobs in the country, but also some of the most dangerous. A lack of training and regulation has resulted in the nation's highest work-related fatalities.
What the hell is going on up there?
Fault Lines investigates who is responsible. Death on the Barkan Shale, at this time on Al Jazeera.
When disaster struck, Al Jazeera was first on the scene.
The entire ground started shaking, people started falling.
And as the story unfolds, our teams on the ground continue to bring you the latest updates.
People here have every right to be frustrated. Most of them still haven't received enough relief.
As Nepal struggles with the aftermath of its largest earthquake in over 80 years, we bring you a special half-hour program live from Kathmandu. Nepal, in ruins, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Divorce rates in Taiwan are soaring, and as a marriage consultant, Helen knows this only too well. But as their 60th wedding anniversary approaches, her own parents are locking horns rather than arms. Can her daughterly love and professional expertise make them see eye to eye? My Father, My Mother, part of the Viewfinder Asia series, at this time on Al Jazeera.
What Al Jazeera does is get beneath the headlines, get to the very, very heart of the story to tell you not just what's happening, but why it's happening.